A war has broken out in America, but not with tanks or bombs. It's being fought in courtrooms, with documents and tears. An 82-year-old retired teacher won an epic victory against former President Donald Trump and his team. But how did this happen? Watch to the end to find out the full story, because this case will both surprise and make you think. For more stories, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. This is the Medicare crisis. When U.S. President Donald Trump and White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt proposed cuts to the pension system, millions of Americans were outraged. But there was one woman who refused to remain silent. Margaret Thompson, a teacher for 40 years, now a pensioner who can't afford medicine. This is her story, and maybe all of ours. And this brave woman is now standing up for the rights of all pensioners. Why did Margaret Thompson set out on this journey? She explained it in the following words. "I taught children to read and write for 40 years. In my class, I always said, 'Stand up for yourself.' But now I have to stand up for myself. I need $400 a month for my medication. My pension? $1,200. The maths is simple. I either buy medicine or I eat." Unfortunately, Margaret is not alone. More than 60 million people over the age of 65 in America rely on Medicare and Social Security. But this system is crumbling. Donald Trump's policies are putting American pensioners in a difficult position. The cuts proposed by Trump and Leavitt have hit millions like Margaret. Instead of giving up, she chose to go to court. When the day of the trial arrived, there was a very tense atmosphere. American President Donald Trump was being judged by his own people, once again, and his offense was usurping the pension rights of American citizens. The judge began by announcing the start of the trial. Court is now in session. Federal lawsuit filed on behalf of Margaret Thompson, case number 25-0425. Are the parties ready? Sarah Montgomery was present in court as the plaintiff's lawyer. Montgomery also announced that the plaintiff was ready. "We are ready, Your Honor. My client will prove that Trump and Leavitt manipulated Medicare policies for their own benefit. We have documents, audio recordings, and witnesses." On the other side was Michael Reed, the lawyer for U.S. President Trump. Reed was confident, but he didn't trust Trump because Trump had been tried before. He had also been found guilty on some counts. Nevertheless, he had to defend him. So he began. This trial is theater. Mr. Trump worked to get the country out of the swamp. Now he is to be indicted because of a retired teacher? Your Honor, we deny all charges. This trial is a big conspiracy. Caroline Leavitt also intervened and began to defend herself. It was my duty to inform the public. It is not fair for Ms. Margaret to blame her personal difficulties on me or Mr. Trump. Margaret Thompson listened silently to the defense of the defendants. Her tired body was resisting despite everything, because she had a just cause. She was also fighting for this cause. Margaret stood up and responded to the defendant's defense. "You cannot silence me. I have been silent for years. I paid my taxes. I worked. Now I can't get my medicines. Is this your great America?" Mr. President spoke in the squares with big promises before the election. But what about now? Pensioners in the great America who can't even get their medicines even though they are entitled to them. Margaret's speech had a great impact. The hall erupted in applause and cheers. Those who had been following the case on television were also in raptures. Margaret was defending the rights of millions of people. As Margaret's voice echoed through the hall, everyone realized that this case was not just about one person. This was a struggle for the survival of a generation. If you are part of this struggle, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Sarah Montgomery, the plaintiff's lawyer, began again. Mr. Levitt, on March 14, 2024, you said, "Our pension system is in need of overhaul. Some sacrifices may be required." Isn't that an open admission of cuts? Caroline Levitt answered this question with a condescending smile. "Politics is an art, Mr. Montgomery. I only told the truth. The system is unsustainable." You are turning it into a personal attack. As if expecting this response, Sarah Montgomery now turned her speech to U.S. President Donald Trump. "Mr. Trump, these words also belong to you. When you say we have to do something, do you mean to cut off medication for the elderly? Does your economic policy consist of cutting the old people's medication? Do you use the same methods to run your companies?" Trump responded angrily to this question. "These women always pull the same trick. We say the country is sinking. They cry, but it's my medicine. I'm trying to save your grandchildren, and you're still stuck in the past." Old Margaret was furious. She retorted in a stern voice, "My grandchildren want to borrow money from me, Mr. Trump. Your so-called economy has only benefited your rich friends. People like me have been forgotten. We have been condemned to poverty by your hand." As the documents were put on the table, Donald Trump and Levitt's defense was weakening. But the real storm had not yet broken. Trump raised his voice even louder. He was furious with Margaret. "This case is a political conspiracy. Margaret is being used as a puppet by the enemies of this country. I am a hero of the people. America's enemies are using Margaret to hide the truth." Sarah Montgomery interjected again. "This is a courtroom, Mr. Trump, not Twitter. This is a court of evidence, not shouting. And we have a document signed by you, a draft proposing to cut the Medicare budget by 15%. Caroline Levitt was still trying to defend Trump. "Yes, sacrifices are needed. Some of us will take less to save the pension system. It's the only way to keep the state afloat." Levitt's words made Margaret even angrier. The old woman stood up angrily again. "I love my government. I have served it for 40 years, but it has forgotten me. Do I have to sell my house to buy my medicines? Is this your sacrifice?" After these words, Margaret began to cry. Margaret's tears were not just the cry of a woman, but of a generation. Now all eyes were on the judge. The judge started to listen to the experts. Dr. Emily Carter took the floor. "I am a family doctor. 70% of my patients depend on Medicare. If the cuts start, half of my patients who can't afford medication could die within a year. This is not a statistic, it's a fact." Michael Reed, on the other hand, ignored even this expert claim and continued to defend Trump. "This is speculation. Doctor, do you have any concrete evidence?" Dr. Carter replied, "You want concrete proof? I lost 2 patients last month. They couldn't get their medication. Shall I give you their names?" The expert testimony took the case to another level. Margaret's struggle was no longer just a personal matter. The judge began. After a lengthy deliberation, the court announces its judgment. Defendants Donald J. Trump and Caroline Levitt were found guilty of abusing their authority while in public office to violate the fundamental rights of millions of Americans through changes to the Medicare system. Margaret Thompson's allegations are supported by documents, audio recordings, and witness testimony. Therefore, the court makes the following judgments. First, the defendants will pay Thompson monetary and non-pecuniary damages. Second, the effects of Medicare policies on the elderly population in their current form will be re-examined at the federal level, and a commission will be established for necessary adjustments. Third, this case will set a precedent for the accountability of public officials. The trial is over. One woman, one case, and one door of hope for America's forgotten elderly. Margaret Thompson, 82 years old, stood alone against the giants of government and won. But what does this victory mean? Will the system really change, or is this just a momentary relief? Margaret's tears echoed the silent cries of millions. But will those cries echo in Washington? This verdict will be felt not just in a courtroom, but in homes, hospitals, and streets across America. But does this story end here, or does the real struggle begin now? Can Margaret's courage spark the awakening of a generation? Think about it as you watch.